Recon is one of those essentials in bug bounty that you really just can't get away from. If you don't like learning something like request smuggling, well then you don't have to. You don't have to look for it if you don't want to. But Recon is going to be there, basically no matter what bug bounty program you choose. And to be honest, at the start, I really hated Recon. Most tutorials would tell me to just run some tool against a website and then just stare at there waiting for the results and then try and find some needle in the haystack from the results that came by. And that really does not sound fun to me. As I advanced over my bug bounty journey though, I've developed my own Recon methodology that focuses more on the enjoyable parts of bug bounty, stuff that I found interesting. And if you share my mentality, then this video is going to be for you. I'm going to walk you through my Recon methodology and show you how I made Recon funner for myself and also more productive by finding more actual assets that I can test on. And as always there, I'll test on a live example to show you the full details. This is a pretty funny AI generated picture generated by me by ChatGPT. Thank you very much. And you can see here, have a bit of ground. And if you imagine, use your imagination, that the ground here is the target that you're hacking on. It's like all the attack surface. It's like all the possible things you can find, like all the features, like every button, like every source code, like all the domains, just all that is this ground, right? And we start from the surface. We don't know anything. We don't have any recon. We don't have any reconnaissance on what's underground, right? And this diamond here is going to be our vulnerability. It's hidden somewhere in like a feature or something like that. Just like some kind of parameter that's going to allow us to exploit some kind of vulnerability. That's great. There's diamond here, and we're trying to find that diamond. Basically, if I was hunting for this diamond, there's two ways you can do it, right? If you think about it. You could either start excavating this like top surface on the ground here and hope that the diamond is somewhere like near the surface. It's like surface level, right? So you excavate like a wide area of ground and you check if the diamond's there, right? And the second way to do it is to just like start drilling deep, like you think that diamond's like bedrock level or something. And you basically get like a drill and start going all the way down, like, and then hopefully you find the diamond somewhere deep underground where other people aren't looking. So that's basically the two ways that we can approach any target. We can attack a wide surface area. So we can attack a load of subdomains, like a load of endpoints. We can have a load of scanners set up. We can have automated stuff like this. And hope that the vulnerability is surface level. It's a vulnerability that doesn't require a lot of human thinking. It just requires like machines to go in and like find stuff like that using subdomains. The other approach is the deeper approach. You hope that one area of ground, that one particular area, if you go deep enough into it, you'll find some kind of vulnerability. So you're praying that that the diamond just happens to be on the column that you're digging at, and hopefully, if you go deep enough, you'll find it. And hopefully, it's not a massive waste of time, right? That's kind of the two approaches that you can take. The best approach is kind of a combination of both. You don't want to just spend your time going into like one feature of a program, but you also don't want to just go completely surface level because the diamonds at the surface are always going to be kind of smaller as well, you know? Like, the deeper you go in, the bigger the diamonds are going to be. So if you kind of imagine that analogy, hunting a program, you want to dig deep enough that you kind of have these bigger diamonds here. But if you spend too much time on one feature, then you might be limiting yourself. You might be going too far. Maybe it's time to check another area and go a bit wider, right? That's kind of the mentality I want you to have. So when you're going wide, there's a couple of things that you can do, right? So the main thing is finding subdomains. So enumerating subdomains and basically trying to find more attack area. Another thing is scanning, automated scanning. That's trying to like deep a little bit surface level, trying to get like some easy like XSS vulnerability or something. So unless you're running like a custom template, you're probably gonna dupe, to be honest. But unless you also find a lot of subdomains, you can find a lot of subdomains. Then you can maybe find something that's a dupe. So something like nuclei here, you can run like a nuclei template on your tag and try to find something. And then just general fuzzing, I call it general fuzzing. It's not specific, right? So if you're like specifically fuzzing for like a parameter, then it's different. But if you're fuzzing like a subdomain that you know nothing about, and you're just trying to find some like exposed like environment file, then that's what I would call wide. So you're just trying to find like a specific kind of endpoint on a domain, on a subdomain, and you're just seeing if it's there, so you get that quick vulnerability, right? So that's kind of wide. And then deep is when you're actually going into the features, you're actually understanding the application, right? So you're trying to enumerate the features, you're trying to find parameters. So there's actually elements to fuzzing when you're going deep as well. It's not just like just there, like you're just thinking about something. You also kind of want to do discovery, right? So you want to find parameters, you want to try and test out like new features, maybe like fuzz headers as well. Those kind of things will help you get a general understanding of the application. And source code analysis, which is another thing. Mostly, I'm talking about JavaScript here, so JavaScript analysis. But if this is a white box test, then maybe actually reading the source code is going to actually be possible. Or if this is an open source tool, then you can actually read the source code as well and get an understanding of that. So I'm going to mostly be going into the deep side today because I think the wide side is already fairly well covered by a lot of tutorials. But I think this deep side actually is a little bit still unexplored for a lot of people because it requires a bit of thinking, it requires a bit of target specific knowledge. But I feel like the deep side actually is made a lot easier by AI, and I'm going to show you how I use AI to basically dig deep into a target and without having to use a lot of my own brain. So now I'm going to hop into a live example. I'm going to show you how I would do Recon on HackerOne with some of these deep tactics. So this is HackerOne, probably not a new site to most of you, as you're probably used to this program. First Recon I would definitely do is just to actually get used to using the platform. So I would spend 1 or 2 days just using this application and figuring out how to actually use it. If you followed my guide where you choose a target that you already used before, then you can skip that step. But if this is a completely new thing, then you should spend some time getting used to how the application works and what it even is. And that's the first bit of recon I would do. The second thing, which I think a lot of bug bounty hunters don't actually do, is to deploy some kind of regex. So regex, regular expressions, is something that basically will match some kind of terms in a bit of text. And the context of a website, we're going to mostly be looking at JavaScript and obviously HTML as well. But mostly JavaScript, right? So there's this tool created by another hacker called Link Finder. That's kind of nice to use. And you can create some offshoot regexes from that I'll show you in a minute. First of all, I'm going to show you the actual code for this. So the code is here. I've edited it slightly just to suit my needs, but you can probably get the unedited version sometimes. And the goal here is that what this will do is this will just find links on the website and then it'll return it to us. So I'll just show it to you what it looks like for now. So I'll open up the bookmark and I'll run link finder, and this will just grab all like the endpoints on the website. And why we want to do this? Well, this is useful to find APIs, find unused API calls, just generally get an understanding of the features, and then find other links, like internal links potentially on JavaScript as well, which is all very useful. Thing is, a lot of people are running this tool already though. And definitely on something like HackerOne, a very popular program, you can see that probably most people have already discovered a lot of these endpoints. What we want to do is try and design our custom tools that other people aren't going to be running at the moment. That's the ideal goal of Regex, right? So see, I have my own custom tools designed here, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can do the same thing, right? So with this JavaScript here, what we need to do is just edit the regex, so just so it will return the data in the same format, but will give us a different type of result. And this is right here. We want to edit this right here, right? So this is all the regex that we want to edit. And I'm just going to, I'll link this in the description for you actually. There'll be a link in the description. Hopefully if I don't forget. But we want to place our template in here basically. And how do we design templates? Well, the best way to do it would be to know regex and then go in and make it yourself. I don't do that though because regex is kind of complicated, especially on minified JavaScript. So we can consult our best friend here. Consult our best friend ChatGPT to try and design us a regex here. So how would I go about doing this? The ideal way is to try and design it yourself first and then get ChatGPT to improve it. But I'm not even going to be bothered with that either. I'm just going to go type in here. I'm going to say design regex for me. That will, let's just say I want to try and find all the strings on this web page. It's kind of random, right? That will find all the strings from minified JavaScript. I don't know why you would want to do this, but just to give you an example. You can find anything. You can maybe find like path traversals or something like that, and that will extract. We'll say extract all the strings from minified JavaScript. Now, an important thing to do is to tell ChatGPT to think, because if you use just the default fast version, it'll probably give you shit regex. We want it to think and actually give us some good regex. So we go in here, and let's just see what it gives us. we'll say design some regex for me. It'll hopefully think for a moment. And while I do that, I'll just bring back the codes and we're just going to inject it in here right when ChatGPT gives it to us. And then we're going to create a new bookmark. Rightio, seems like we've gotten some regex here. Let's see if it works. Sometimes ChatGPT will make a mistake in terms of regex, so you might have to tweak it a little bit and ChatGPT tweak it. But we're going to just test it out first. We're going to paste the regex into the, it's already given us the brackets here. So we're going to copy paste this now with the new regex. We're going to go here and we're going to say add a bookmark. We're going to say like string finder. That's usually what I call this. And then we're just going to copy paste this into it. We've saved it there. Now let's run string finder. Let's see what string finder returns to us. So I'll give it a few seconds there. And there you go. It seems like it's actually returned all the strings to us. Wow. You see? And now we have, oh, okay, some of that is very long. Sometimes, especially with minified JavaScript, the kind of results you get might be a bit dodgy. You might get some garbage, but but most of the results seem to be accurate here. We managed to get all the actual strings here. So now we can basically look for stuff here if you wanted to. Like you see, we have device width. We could basically copy that. And now what you want to do when you have this result actually is you want to go into the source code, into the debugger, you want to search and actually locate that. Somewhere on the web page, right? Hopefully it's somewhere here. Maybe like with device or something. Okay, I don't know why that's not finding it. Okay, I'm not sure why that's not finding it. But what would you do? What you would do is just go in there. Maybe let's try something that's like UTF-8, let's say. And take a search. Okay, there you go. For example, UTF-8. Go here. You'd find where the source is. Then you'd start reading the JavaScript. Fortunately, this is minified. Most programs will use minified JavaScripts because it just takes up less memory. Well, you can still read it. You can definitely get used to reading minified JavaScript. It's just a bit of a skill that you have to build up. Well, then you can try and search for vulnerabilities like that. That's one of the major bits of Recon you can do. And you can see here that, let's go back to this opportunities page here. You can see my bookmarks. I have a GraphQL query finder. This will basically return all the GraphQL queries from here. I have a, I don't even know what this does. I think this returns, any string concatenations. So in JavaScript, you can basically do like a thing where you have a template literal. Maybe I'll run this. Yeah, sorry, this template literal finder. Yeah, that's what it is. This finds all the template literal strings. So basically where variables have been injected into strings, this just helps me find client-side path traversal vulnerabilities. So maybe you could go in and try and test all this for path traversal vulnerabilities. And then the last thing is client-side path traversal finder, which is something similar as the one on top, but this basically finds wherever strings are added together with a plus. So this will tell me where two strings are added just directly with an actual like string concatenation. So without using template literals, but just using the pure concatenation. And yeah, that's the tools that I run, these custom tools. And I think they really help me stand out from the crowd in terms of finding recon and finding data. So that's one of the bigger things I want you to do. By the way, no pressure, but I have some links in the description, which are to my labs. So these are hands-on practical labs that I've designed. If you know my videos, I always use a live example to demonstrate the concepts because I really believe in practical knowledge over theory or some kind of PowerPoint or something like that. Especially in bug bounty, you have to do things. You have to actually do things yourself to actually get the idea and find the vulnerability on real applications. Which is why I believe in labs as well. I've designed my own labs based on usually vulnerabilities that I've found myself or vulnerabilities that were found by other bug bounty hunters that I've replicated in the labs. They're really valuable. They're all online. You don't have to download anything. They're basically in the same format as my usual labs where you just go on a website and then you start hacking it basically. And it's just more creative. It's kind of more professional instead of the usual, like, kind of the patched up labs that I usually deliver on the YouTube channel. So if you're interested in that, then link in the description, but no pressure. So, okay, so I ran my regex. I have all my GraphQL queries. Now, there's a lot of these GraphQL queries though, and reading them would take absolute decades, you can see. how do I sort out the actual kind of useless GraphQL queries from the ones that we actually want to look at? And what we can use again is AI. So watch this. This is one of these cool things that I think I actually found, which is you come in here, you save the actual web page as a HTML page, you save it here, you go into ChatGPT, right, and you say, I'm testing my website for vulnerabilities. These are all the GraphQL queries on my website. What vulnerability should I test for? And what ChatGPT will do is, using the file I give it, it will suggest things I can find, so vulnerabilities I can find from those requests. And this is good because most people are going to try and sort it by hand, but we're going to use AI to identify the highest priority requests that we need to look at. And it's going to suggest that basically just a pattern recognition, right? And most of the time, the things that it will suggest will be the highest priority. So instead of wasting our time on some like random change profile picture requests, that's not really going to have an effect, right? We're going to focus on the requests, so the API endpoints that are going to give us the real value. And that's what I want for you to actually focus on. You can do this with all of your regex. So with the link finder, you can do it as well. You can pipe straight into ChatGPT and ask it for vulnerabilities to find. This I think works the best with something like GraphQL though, but it can also work with the client-side patch reversal, and you can find it works with anything that you design yourself based on the program and the experiences that you have personally built up. So I've just asked ChatGPT to basically read this file now, and this is what it's saying. So we look for broken access control, privilege escalation, looking for private objects, and then it's basically giving me the query and telling me to basically try and look for some kind of privilege escalation. Have mutation authorization bypass, so basically looking for mutations, seeing if we can do basically the same kind of broken access control, or injecting some kind of introspection exposure. Maybe try an introspection, that's another thing we can use. Or for example, injection, so into string markdown. Oh yeah, LLM prompt, see it's identified everything from the actual content. And the ideal thing you can actually do is you can modify this prompt. So I've just done this prompt as an example, but really I would build up a much more complicated prompt. So I'd, for example, say, give me like ready to go curl requests that I can just straight away fire in, like, and you can do something like that. You can ask it to give examples from the actual document. I just haven't, but it's giving me some examples anyway. But if you want specific, like you don't want kind of waffle, you can tell it to give specific examples, and injection, DOS, file attachments. Yeah, you can go straight testing all of these things. And I think the most time-saving way that you can start testing these endpoints is by just piping the information directly into AI. You can even try Claude, although I think ChatGPT is actually better for hacking because Claude is a bit bitchy and it doesn't like want to give you vulnerabilities. So I really prefer using ChatGPT, but you can definitely try out the other AIs as well. And yeah, that's really what you want to do. Once you have your regex, you want to pipe it into AI, and then you want to basically examine those vulnerabilities. So that's where the real hacking begins. This is where Recon ends, and then the real hacking begins now, where we're testing actual vulnerabilities now. So this is all our Recon done now. So what else can we do for Recon? Well, some people also like using the Wayback Machine. The Wayback Machine allows you to see old versions of the website. So it could allow you to see old API endpoints. So if we go like, let's say HackerOne here, we'd go in, we'd find HackerOne, we'd find HackerOne as well. And we'd say we find like we go back like 3 years in time, see what the API endpoints look like now, and then test them again, maybe pipe them into ChatGPT. Or we can actually do something even better, which is to find the differences between the current API endpoints and the new API. Sorry, we can find differences between the new API endpoints and the old API endpoints. Once again, we can probably use AI for that because it's just a time-consuming task, but it's something that you can use. Let's just load it up. You can go like researchers, landing opportunities. Maybe we can go back in time to like 2023. This might not load up though because since this is an old endpoint, and it's using older APIs, it might not work with the new APIs, so it might just like the API endpoints probably won't work. But even if the API doesn't work, note that the JavaScript is still there, right? If you see this spinning wheel, that means the JavaScript loaded. That means there's nothing stopping us from going here, running our GraphQL query finder, and just doing basically the same thing as we did before, right? So finding this, piping it into ChatGPT, and then comparing it with the results that we found here. So that's not stopping us at all. That's one way you can use the Wayback Machine. You can also use it to find secrets, hard-coded secrets. So companies sometimes put like API keys into JavaScript by mistake. That's what you can do. You can do a bit of recon on that. But the main thing is to identify older API endpoints. The last bit of recon that I usually end up doing is just actually reading the documentation that the website gives us. So if we just Google API, HackerOne, we're going to go here, and it's going to give us some kind of documentation. Nowadays, almost every platform will have some kind of documentation, whether it's HackerOne, Deliveroo, or I don't know, fucking US Department of Intelligence. They're all going to have like API documentations now, just because most websites use integrations and stuff like that. It's just better for the internet that way. And with documentation, it's going to give us a lot of intelligence on what the API endpoints are for. Instead of doing like random parameter fuzzing, most of the time you can just go here, go into like resources, something like that, and you can just like find API endpoint here, and it's just going to give you the parameters that are accepted. Now that doesn't mean that more parameters actually aren't accepted, right? So if this API endpoint, like this API documentation tells us that these parameters are accepted, then they probably will be. But that doesn't mean that there's not more accepted. Sometimes companies will allow more parameters in, like by accident maybe, which is going to lead to vulnerabilities. So that's where something like parameter mining is going to come in. But normally this is going to just make our life easier because it's going to tell us how we can actually use the API endpoint with the curl. So instead of getting ChatGPT to do this, we can just go here and use it ourselves. Usually it's going to require some kind of API token, which you can get from logging into the platform. It shouldn't be too hard. And with that, you can test like all of these API endpoints. You can actually pipe this into ChatGPT as well if you want to, and you can ask it which of these will be the best to test out. And stuff like webhooks, there's a decent bit of vulnerabilities and things like this. What else? We have like use cases, sometimes like resources. You can often get like privilege escalations. IDORs are a big thing here. If you have someone like uploading files, which maybe it's somewhere here like assets, importing files, uploading files, then you're going to start having like S3 misconfigurations, which I've talked about previously in the channels. And there's a lot of really great vulnerabilities that you can look for in these API documentations. That's why I always take a look at this, because it can give me a sense of where I should go next, what vulnerabilities I should attack, and which vulnerabilities I can attack that actually suit my hacking style as well. So that's really good. And yeah, I think that's most of the recon that I do. It's just gonna run down to running the regex, running it with ChatGPT, getting some idea of where to go next, getting some features to test on, and then reading the API documentation to basically try and find out what I should do. Sometimes what will actually happen here is that in the API documentation, there'll be an AI as well. So sometimes you can actually ask the AI like whether there's like a parameter somewhere. If you want to ask it like, can I do something, then you can do that as well. It can clarify some things for you. Help you find like business logic error vulnerabilities, which they're not like technical vulnerabilities, but they're kind of like assumptions that developers made. They're kind of cool vulnerabilities as well. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video on Recon, and I hope that these tips that I gave in this video will help you move Recon from something that's just staring at your terminal, opening up like text files from like these tools, and then just looking for some kind of like API endpoint or something like that. Instead of that, you want to kind of move it more into this kind of thing, where you're actually constructively, actively looking at the website, looking for endpoints, and you're looking for like documentation. You're actually actively reading stuff. Now, there's a lot more to Recon than just this, right? The subdomain enumeration stuff and all that, it's actually extremely important as well. And you do have to do it, although I think a lot more people invest too much time into it and not enough time into this, but it's definitely still important, right? And we're just talking about the active side of Recon, right? It's also the passive side. Stuff like getting alerted whenever the website gets updated, stuff like monitoring JavaScript files. That's all kind of the passive side of Recon as well, which is also very important. And I think it's actually even more underinvested into by hackers than the active side of Recon as well. And I'm actually guilty of that though. I don't do a lot of the passive recon. I used to try to, but it didn't really work that well. So if you want to try more of that, then I think there's other guidelines that are better, and that's something that I'm trying to work on myself as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you have suggestions, then please leave a comment in the description. Comment below. I always read my comments. I'm quite a small channel. This video was actually a recommendation from someone that I read, and I made this video just for them. And yeah, if you want to have a good video suggestion, then leave it in the comments below, and I'll probably make it soon. And yeah, that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting.